My Health Matters. Woman's name is Brittany McGrath.
He was in a few meetings ago. We told her it was an allowed use in the district, but we did want to see her sign.
Yeah.
Do you have a picture of the sign by any chance?
Yeah, right here. This is exactly it.
Okay. How big is that?
It's 6 feet wide by 16 inches tall,
Okay.
and it hangs by the road. There's 3 other signs there already.
So this is just to be hung on the marquee at the road?
Right.
Okay.
There's My Happy Valley or something like that's already there now.
Yep. Is there anything going to be on the building for her?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
I'll make a motion to
Lighting,
approve.
no.
When do you make a motion? I want a second.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
We don't have
Abstain.
Mark done.
Yeah, Mark's on.
Yeah.
Okay. We will
I
get
abstain.
a email off to the building inspector, so you can go and apply for it probably within the next couple days.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, Mr. Dwyer.
Todd Wendell.
Oh, that's me. Okay. Yeah, I'm here with Adam.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Adam. And do we have Tom on as well?
What are you here for?
Oh, what are we here for? We're with Trinitas Development. We have
Okay.
the presentation for the
You're on the agenda for. You are in the agenda for later. This is our office hours session.
Yeah, this is just this is a general information session that people come in and ask questions and apply for different things.
Got
Okay.
it. Okay. Our zoning attorney told us to show up at 6:30. So what time should we join the call?
Probably in about 10 or 15 minutes, so it won't be long.
We just have to get through our question and answer session.
Understood.
So
Okay.
you can stay and.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a technological genius when it comes to Zoom, and I was successfully able to log in. So you don't mind, I'm just going to stick on the line. I'll mute
that's
myself
fine.
and just let us know when you guys are ready.
It's a public meeting.
This is a public hearing, so you can listen all you want.
All right, lovely. Thank you.
May I just anticipate that Melanie Capone Babb, Lynn and Jack Edwards, and Rick Babb are also interested in the Trinitas project.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Tom Corbett. I'm not sure if we're going to be discussing battery storage in any great detail tonight, but.
Yeah, I was just here to listen along, so that's all.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to Steve Viano.
Great, cool. So we're you got those plans I sent over to you?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, let me see if I can just pull that up.
There's your assistant, Mr. Dwyer. The one with a nice long tail.
Having dinner. Let's see there. Acrobat just seems tired tonight. Okay, let me see now if I can share this.
What's the address on this one?
This is 243 Russell Street. It's where the old Hasty fence used to be.
Okay, yeah.
So really what we're looking to do with the property in terms of changes is, as you can see in the bottom center of the plans right here, we would like to expand the current turnaround that's located in the front of the property. This turnaround area is currently about 20 by 20. It was installed by the previous renters here. I'm the new renter here, and I'd like to expand it by about 15 feet deeper, just so I'm able to turn a truck and a trailer around in it to be able to back into it, and then expand it by approximately like 5-ish feet on either side. So then that allows us to not have to turn around or anything on Route 9 or back inside the yard there. It just makes it a little bit easier and safer for myself and my employees. And then another thing that we would like to add in the back right corner of the property, what that is that's a non-permanent structure that's bulk material bins, which is essentially large concrete blocks that will allow us to be able to store 3/4 aggregate stone, 3/8 aggregate stone, and then some mulch, and which would be in that right bin there, and then screened loam are the 4 materials that we would like to store.
How
Where you get
high-
the loan from?
The loan?
Yeah, where's it coming from?
Oh, to do the place, that's all self-funded.
How high is the fence and how high are the containment blocks?
Yep. So the fence is 6 feet high. However, it is set on the high end of the property. So realistically, if we were to go from asphalt height to the top of the fence, we're looking at about 7.5 feet. The containment blocks, those are 2 foot high, and I don't plan on going any more than 3 courses, which would be 6 feet high for the containment blocks. And I don't plan on stacking material any higher than that either.
So the Russell Street is at the bottom of the screen, and those are 2 parking places. How far back from your property line are they?
So the turnaround area, so that's essentially where the property line would be with the new easement. So with the Route 9 construction, they're coming in approximately 10 feet. So where that horizontal line is where essentially is where the parking area would begin. That would also just be made of like a crushed stone. So it would just be something that's easy, simple. We don't plan on any parking or anything like that, or extended parking there. And then the parking on the left-hand side, that's just an area that I wanted to leave provision for, where we typically wouldn't plan on leaving any trucks or anything for an extended amount of time. That area though would start 50 feet in from the street there. I'm not sure if we measured the full 50 in, but that's what the idea is. I don't have any trucks that are longer than 50 feet with a trailer behind them.
We don't allow parking in the front yard, and it's too close to your property line on Russell Street. Does everybody else read it that way? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right up to the front property. You're right out, you're inches off of the state line, looks like.
Yep. So that would be because, yeah, we're looking to do mostly a turnaround area there, but I see what you're saying.
I think if you continued it around the house, so it was actually a loop instead of what looks like could very easily be used as a parking space, it might be a different impression, but it sure looks like a parking space.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
How
Okay,
big is how big is the parcel?
the parcel itself is approximately like 3/4 of an acre.
Okay. How this soft parking area and the buildings and your front area out front, how, it's difficult to try to, because there's a lot of dimension. What's the scale on this drawing?
Should be a scale bar right there in the center,
Let me see
or
if
on
I
the
can,
bottom left corner. Sorry about that.
let me see if I can blow it up enough for us to read it.
Is that
Okay,
1 inch is
there
20
we go.
feet.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
That 1 inch equals 20 feet? Or 10 feet? 1 inch equals 10 feet?
1 inch would be 20 on that. Actually, no, you're right about that. Yep, 1 inch would be 10 feet then.
Okay.
If that's 5, that brings it to 10. This
That's
looks like
20,
it
yeah.
is
Three.
twice that.
Okay.
Try to get us back to the one shot.
So it looks like about 10 feet from the sidewalk.
I'm going to say that you're exceeding the non-open area in your zone. You're only supposed to be covering about 30% of your property between parking and buildings, and you're probably covering 75%.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know how you correct that or how you address it, but you're allowed, I'm not sure if it's 20 or 30, you're in the aquifer zone. Might be 20, off the top of my head, I dare not say exactly what it is, but it's a lot less than what you probably, it appears you have there.
Okay. Definitely. So what it sounds like is, yeah, we would ex-nay the turnaround area then in front of the sign there.
I'm just getting the impression that this lot is not big enough to support what you want to do there and comply with zoning.
Yeah, so our company is most of our I'd say probably 80% of our equipment's on site. I'd say it's a solid 90% of the time. So I never really do ever have all of our equipment in one spot. We have 3 trucks as the company and 3 trailers. So I think there's adequate room for us to be able to turn around and park. And I have 3 employees that drive in every single day. So that would then swap out the amount of trucks that would then be gone while employees would be there.
Oh,
Equipment,
We have, as you know, we have received comments from abutters.
any of you tuned in, Bill?
There are none tuned in.
Okay, so we'll address those.
I'm not comfortable waiving site plan approval for this change of use. I think we probably should do a site plan approval, do a public hearing, and let's get this all aired out.
I agree with Mr. Dwyer.
and where you're parking your equipment and the employee vehicles back in the upper left?
Yep, within that section of the yard. Yep.
Okay.
How many trucks did Hasty Fence have parked there?
Hasty Fence, I've seen some aerial pictures of it and it was pretty packed in there. Like they had to back every single truck in so they could fit them in. If you were to look at the satellite imagery, it was packed wall to wall, the yard there.
What's the ellipse in the front of the structure to the west or to the right of the proposed?
This,
Yeah,
this
That's the
device here.
sign.
it says what? I can't read it.
That's the sign that's there.
Oh, that's a sign. That's the existing sign. Okay. And where the cursor is now, that was the area you were proposing to park a vehicle and trailer along the east
Along here.
side of the, yeah.
To allow for it.
So Jim, when he does appear for the site plan, you want to give him the rundown on the, what we would like to see, green space, designated parking area, et cetera, et cetera. So
That is under section 8,
section,
commercial site plan approval by the planning board. That references all the things that we want to see. That include this, now this addresses everything from the mega mall to the small job, to the small person like you. So there's some things on here that don't apply, obviously.
Mhm.
And I'm sure as you read through it, you'll see things that obviously don't apply. If you have any questions, you may call Mr. Dwyer during the day or myself in the evening.
Definitely. Okay, great. Okay, so I'll follow section 8 there to see percentages on space wise. Okay, and then do you guys have any thoughts or commentary on being able to have some sort of a material storage in the back of the yard there?
Just bear in mind that that increases your parking requirement because we count all exterior areas dedicated to business purpose.
Yep.
I'll just make a comment that the prior tenant, Hasty, as far as I recall, did not come in for a waiver of site plan approval. I think they were not asked to do it. There was a different people in the building department at the time.
Mhm.
So that might not have that probably would have run into the same concerns had it been brought to us.
Yep.
Good to know.
So are you using all of the garage and all of the house for your business purposes?
So the house is not being used for business purposes. I'm living at the house in front. And then the
Okay.
garage space though, yes, I am using that to be able to store tools for myself and sometimes equipment or something like that if it comes in, and to work on equipment.
I believe I misspoke when I talked about the percent cover. The percent coverage of 20% really is is your accessory buildings and stuff, and you're clearly less than 20% coverage on your accessory buildings. However, there is a requirement of open space.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if in the zone you're in, if it's 20 or 30%. You can go through the zoning, through the bylaws. I will try to find that for you and let you know. But you got to have at least that much open space, which basically means grass.
Okay, so that's grass space, no problem.
Let me just take a quick look and see if I can pull it up.
Is he abutting a wetland or anything else in the back?
He'll need to go to conservation if he hasn't already done that and get their review to see if there is any wetlands that affects him, or he affects any wetlands.
Yeah, it's 20% maximum coverage in the Aquifer Protection District.
You know, that's strictly for buildings, but there is an open space requirement of some percent too somewhere, I think.
Does open space include pervious gravel?
no, the overall concern way back when, Mark, was that we don't want a sea of blacktop and a wall of cement. So
Mhm.
that's why we included open space, and that must be greenery, and it does not include detention ponds.
Can open space be dirt?
Yes, I
Okay,
think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it was trying to limit impervious.
Well, the intent, Mike, was for a little bit for visual effect, and if it's impervious or dirt, it's gonna look like parking.
So
Okay.
does,
Okay, 20% of the lot shall be open space.
It doesn't matter where on the lot it is.
Well,
Correct.
it can be divided. Driveways, walks, off-street parking, parking loading areas, storage of equipment, or supplies, drainage ditches, or designated wetlands do not count towards the open space. The open space shall be maintained by vegetation and plantings.
so he has to make sure that that
Section
area,
5.5 of the zoning bylaw.
he might be close with the back and the
Yeah, he might be, yeah. If it isn't, he's not, I don't think you're right. I don't think he's gonna be off by much.
Oh, I think if he takes out that proposed backup space in the front, I think he's got it.
Well, let him do his calculations.
Right, right,
We're not designing.
right.
designers.
I'll definitely, yeah, I'll definitely probably end up removing that space. And then yeah, I'll remake the calculations and I'll be able to find out and I'll be able to report back to you guys with exactly what it looks like in terms of open space and where we're able to vegetate, or if we do have to make any adjustments. So then, to maybe if there's asphalt or something like that, if I have to cut some asphalt out or something like that, that was put in previously.
Yeah, section 8 explains what site plan approval is, but it also references a lot of other sections within the zoning bylaw.
Mhm.
And once you apply, typically it's about, you will need a couple sets of plans, well, 3-4 sets of plans on paper. And we need electronic copy and 2 sets of mailing labels. It can either be on envelopes or it could be mailing labels, whichever you prefer. And for the time you apply to the time that we hold a public hearing is typically about 1 month. And we
Mhm.
meet the first and third Tuesday of the month, so you can kind of gauge from that. Just want to know what it takes and what's going on. And it also, by doing this, you won't have to keep coming back. Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? You'll put the plans together, file them. They'll be reviewed. We'll take a look at them and go from there. Do we need a peer review on this, Mr. Dwyer?
If we have clear calculations of area, we can take
Yeah.
it ourselves.
I'm guessing, I don't think we need a peer review to save you some time and money on this one. We can do a lot of that ourselves, just to check your numbers. So when you put the open space coverage and the building coverage and the parking coverage, give us the calculation so we can check them and we don't have to send you to an engineer and pay extra money to do this, okay?
Definitely. I definitely appreciate that. And I'll make a cut sheet that has it on it as well, in addition to
That'd
the
be great.
plan. So it makes it easy.
And we'll mail you an application that you fill out. It's pretty simple, name, address, nothing simple. And the only thing you'll be required to pay is the legal notice in the Gazette and the cost of mailing to abutters. The mailing to abutters is basically, a couple of bucks per abutter with today's postage. But the legal notice in the Gazette is published twice, and those things have been running about 400 to 450 bucks.
Mhm.
The Gazette has gone, as you probably are aware, way up on their advertising costs.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, no problem. So from here, what I have to do is I have to get the sets of plans together, get everything, get the cut sheet for you guys, review section 8 on the site plan approval.
Yep.
And then from there, do I come back at the next meeting to look over everything again?
As soon as you have them ready, you can get the list of abutters from the assessor's office in the town hall.
Assessor's office. Butters list. Awesome. And then I just, from there, after we get to schedule the public hearing, I do that through an application through the town hall as well.
Yep, you give us the application, we'll schedule a public hearing and give you what the fee is. Right.
Awesome. Good.
Okay, and I would encourage you to contact the Conservation Commission to see if there's any issues with them.
Okay. Yeah, no
If you
problem. I
haven't
will,
already.
Yeah, I'll be in touch with them.
Okay,
All right, perfect. Great. Thank you guys very much.
right. Thank you. Next, Mr. Dwyer.
I think that concludes everybody who is not interested in our upcoming presentation by Trinitas.
Okay,
How was that the presentation? Trinitat, how's it spelled?
Trinitas. This is just a scheduled appointment. It is not a public hearing, and we are not there is nothing before us. Nothing has been filed, so we will not be taking any action on this because there is nothing before us for action.
this
So
is
are
strictly
we able to comment
strictly
or-
general information. Strictly general information.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, maybe if I could, good to see everybody. So Tom Reedy, attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst, here on behalf of Trinitas. With me, Todd Wendell and Adam Saxon from Trinitas. They'll be doing the majority of the talking tonight. So this is something that's been in concept for quite some time for the Babb property. We had spoken with a couple of the select board members, and then we talked with the Housing and Economic Development Committee over the past pick a number of months. We were going to talk with finance and select board, but they suggested we talk to either planning board or ZBA. And so, as part of the thought process, this could, because it's in the Ag Zone Aquifer Protection District, and it's not currently allowed. So in order to allow it, there are one of three paths as we thought about it. One was a 40B, but we're shying away from that one for a few different reasons. And so then the other two are an overlay district that would have to go through town meeting, obviously, and it would be pretty unique, or a 40R. And so given kind of the conversations that have been happening in town relative to the 40R smart growth, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to get in front of you and to get feedback. So Joe, really what we're looking for is feedback. And is this something that the planning board could see going in front of the state to be included as part of the 40R overlay? And so, this is unique to the town of Hadley. It's unique as far as location, public amenities, design, density. And so I would ask you just to have an open mind and not to come to a conclusion before you hear the presentation, because while it's different, I don't know that it's necessarily bad, but we can get into that conversation. So with that, why don't I turn it over to Todd and Adam to just walk through
before you go. This is almost like you're looking for feedback for a straw vote. And I almost think this is not appropriate.
Mr. Dwyer, let them speak as general information. We don't need to vote or even comment if we don't want to.
And have we ever not had an open mind, Tom?
No, that's what I love about you, Mike. You always have an open mind.
Perfect.
Well, I'm just recalling from many years ago when Pyramid Corporation was making a presentation of the mall, and they came in with they were proposing two different locations, and they were just asking for feedback. They were not asking for feedback. They were kind of getting the sense of the board, so which properties they should submit and which buyer or seller they can. I was advised by town council, who happened to be Betty Parada at the time, who became a Supreme Judicial Court judge in Massachusetts, that we probably should not hear it until there's a formal presentation, until they have picked the site, because it would seem like we're leaning by the questions we ask. So that's where I'm coming from.
And if I
Oh.
could, I mean, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have this site under contract. You've had it under contract for quite some time. I mean, you never
Yeah.
ask a question you don't know the answer to, but you don't have any other sites in Hadley under contract.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to work with Rick Babb and his brother and his
Not-
wife. And
That name seems familiar. Did you not?
Mr. Dwyer, I mean, Mr. Zagradnik, please let them speak.
Okay.
Pyramid is 60 years, almost 60 years ago.
Okay,
Let's
now
just
what the
let-
point I'm
let-
getting to, Jim, just let me make one point. Did this company not appear to us for housing for students on adjacent to 116?
I don't know.
When
Even
was
if they
that,
did-
Joe?
Even if they did, we don't need to comment. We can.
And we don't
can
have to ask
be
them any
quiet.
questions.
Okay.
Kind of awkward. We don't have to ask them any
I'll
questions.
keep
Just let
quiet
them
in this.
Give their spiel.
well, we very much appreciate your time. We've certainly, spent a lot of time being very thoughtful and mindful about this proposed development. Todd Wendell is on the call. He's kind of the project executive helping lead this effort, and Tom Reedy's been really great to work with as well. So Todd we've put together a presentation. If you wouldn't mind sharing your screen, Todd, if you're
Yeah.
tech savvy enough to do so.
Hopefully I can, here we go. Okay.
So
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
so we wanted to just give you a little bit more background on who we are. So we're Trinitas Ventures. It's a family business. Mike King, the founder, he is the father. He was involved with real estate prior to starting Trinitas, and formally started the company in 2008. So it was a really great time to start a real estate development company. But he did bring on his two sons on board and really helped kind of take things to the next level. Lauren King, he's our CEO. And we also have Chris King with a construction background. He's head of construction. We're based out of Lafayette, Indiana, but we also have offices in Indianapolis, where I'm out of, and Chicago, where Todd is out of as well. So we're a multifamily residential developer. We've built in 15 different states, over 30 developments of all sorts and sizes. We've built a high-rise buildings, 3 to 4 story, kind of garden or flats buildings. We've built townhomes and even cottage style developments. So have a range of different product mixes that we've built. We do have an active pipeline across the country. I'm on the acquisitions side, so that's my job, is to find well located land and in areas and where we'd like to build. And so we've been working and trying to find a property in Hadley for some time, and I've been fortunate enough to work with the Babs and have it officially under contract. So we appreciate your time and on that front. So a little bit more about us. We are vertically integrated. We do have an in-house property management team. So our goal and our intent is to develop, hold, and manage this property for the long term. Our properties have on-site leasing as well. Just to kind of give you a high level of the plans. I know Todd's going to get into the details. He's a little bit smarter than I am, but we do truly envision this to be a multifamily community development. Working professionals, empty nesters, just people from the community. Nowadays there's people that simply don't want the headache of managing and owning a home. I know certainly sometimes I wonder, why am I owning a property? I'm fixing the roof, the gutter, landscaping, upkeep, you name it. Interest rates have certainly gone up. I think we're all aware of that pretty rapidly, and a lot of people weren't projecting that, and kind of have priced them out, unfortunately, for the market. So renting, provides a little bit more flexibility in today's day and age. Um, Another thing is when people move to Hadley, they don't necessarily want or can afford a home, but it's nice for them to have an option to rent to get a little bit more acclimated to the area. There's people that are doing a kitchen rehab and might not want to be living in their house for the time, and they need a place to live during the construction. So, having said that, in our plan that we're proposing, just to get high level, feedback on, is we have a really good mix of residential product types, cottages and villas and townhomes. It really has a great community kind of village feel to it. In terms of a site that checks the boxes from a multifamily perspective, we do look for good visibility. We believe this has it off of Rocky Hill Road and Maple Street, 2 access points. So we do look for easy access, proximity to retail. We're certainly, close to retail, which we like. And then it just, it has all of those things. So, like I mentioned, we wanted to be very mindful of really the neighboring community. So we've, wanted to be very inviting. We've included a public park. There's public parking. There's a nature preserve and walking trails. There's a playground. There's pickleball courts. So really a great amount of amenities for everyone to be able to use. We've also factored in an affordable housing component. And so, our goal is to have an open mind, listen, collaborate, understand what you're looking for and how we can be a value add to the community. So wanted to just take the time to kind of share that with you, and I will let Todd, further dive into to our plan here. So appreciate your taking the time.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Adam. I'm sensing that maybe we need to take a step back. Hopefully you guys are able to follow me on the screen here. And I'm going to bring up Google Earth. And just
what's your title, Todd?
I'm Vice President at Trinitas, a project executive. As Adam said, I'm sort of in charge of this project.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So here is, this is the site we're talking about right here. It's bordered to the north by Rocky.
All we see is your PowerPoint.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, let me see if I can correct that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop sharing and I will start sharing again. Bear with me 1 second.
That usually works.
Yeah. Nope, I'm back to the PowerPoint.
Sometimes you have to scroll down when it says choose window.
Let me do this again. Share screen, entire screen. Let's try that. Okay. So if I minimize that and I minimize this, let's see if I can bring up there. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, let's just start in Google Earth here, just to make sure that we're all looking at thinking about the same site. So if you can see my cursor kind of circling the site here, this is the parcel that we're talking about. So we're bordered to the north by Rocky Hill Road, to the west by North Maple Street, and to the east by Route 116. So this is the site right in here.
How many acres is that?
Roughly 45. Okay, so now I think you guys know what we're talking about. Let me jump back over to the presentation. Okay, are we back into the presentation?
Yep.
Fantastic. I'm going to go to presentation mode here. Okay. So before we start dive into the details of our design and some of the program specifics, I thought it would be worth starting off, or I should say thought it would be worth starting off talking about some of the community benefits that we think this project will bring to the town of Hadley. I'm going to go pretty quickly through these guys. I think most of the meat of this will be looking at the design and the overall plan. So, first off, as Tom mentioned, we have an affordable housing component that we're proposing as part of entitlement path. And I think at a minimum, 20% of the units that we're proposing to build would count towards the affordable housing stock in Hadley. Along with that, we know that Hadley is in need of some market rate housing. So, of course, the remainder of the units would add to that stock and really benefit the community of Hadley. As Adam mentioned, about half, roughly half, a little over half, I should say, of those 45 acres, we are willing to give as part of a community give back to the city of Hadley. We're going to dive into the details of that on some of the further slides, but we really think that is a valuable asset that that Hadley neighborhoods and community will benefit from. At Trinitas Ventures, we take a lot of pride in the neighborhoods that we create, and we truly believe that this project will add value to the town of Hadley. And then lastly, through some of the research we've done, due diligence on the site and the town of Hadley, we understand that sanitary system is a bit of an issue there, and we think that there is some synergy between our site and some of the needs potentially for Hadley and ways to improve that sanitary system. And at this point, what we're willing to do, not knowing all the details, is we're certainly willing to combine efforts to sit down with the township and see if there's any way that we can help solve some of those problems. In terms of financial benefits, of course, with a project of this size, there will be a significant bump to the property tax base. Conservatively, we think at the very low end, we're talking about roughly $300,000 annually, although we think that it will be greater than that. But at this point, I think that's what we're comfortable committing to. Obviously, when you add some residents like this, they're going to patron local businesses. So there'll be a bump in revenue for those businesses, along with some sales taxes that the town will benefit from. The infrastructure upgrade I already mentioned. And then if we, as Tom mentioned, there are several entitlement paths that we're pursuing or considering at this time, looking for your input, of course. If we were to pursue one of those options, which is a Chapter 40R, we believe there's a one-time annual payout to the town of Hadley of roughly $600,000. Okay, so without further ado, here is our concept site plan. And as Tom mentioned, this isn't the first time we've talked to decision makers in the town of Hadley. So this is about the fourth or fifth iteration of the plan. And, we've taken comments, criticisms from those past meetings, and we've worked to improve the plan to the best of our abilities. So I think, again, let me orient you. This is kind of a stylized sketch here, but here, you can see my cursor moving. This is River Road. We have
Rocky Hill Road.
Rocky Hill Road, Maple, and then Route 116 on the east side. As I mentioned, we've got a total of about 45 acres, and 23 of those are devoted to what we're referring to as our public amenity, which leaves about 22 acres that are devoted to the residential program. The residential program, at least in the preliminary concept here, our thought is that the main entry would be off of Rocky Hill. And then the public amenity, which would include the nature trail and a whole assortment of activities that we'll dive into when we look at the renderings, would be access off of Maple. The thought there is that access point is closer to the existing neighborhoods, which we think will benefit most from this public amenity. Let's talk a little bit more about the residential program. As Adam mentioned, we're looking at including a cottage, which was essentially a one-story duplex, and a townhome, a three-story townhome. The reason why we like those building types is that we think that they are, again, kind of low in density and fit better into this kind of neck of the woods of Hadley. We do have some renderings that are later in the presentation. We can talk a little bit more about the specifics of what those look like and what our thoughts are moving forward in terms of design development. In terms of the unit mix, we're offering the community a variety of unit sizes. You can see on the matrix over here on the right, we're looking at a range of unit sizes from 1 bedroom all the way up to 4. And then I wanted to end on the residential, at least in terms of talking points on the concept plan here, to talk a little bit about design, site placement, and scale. And, we took great care in locating the residential program. So from the initial feedback we got, I think there was some sensitivity of the size of this project and, how it would feel in kind of change the landscape of this neighborhood. So we looked at using distance, and this is in terms of hundreds of feet, and landscape as a way to buffer that residential program and community from the neighborhoods, adjacent neighborhoods. So, from our vantage point, someone driving down Rocky Hill, it's almost going to be hard to see or feel the residential neighborhood. It's, again, hundreds of feet from the road, and we're going to use that zone, fill it up with trees and landscaping in order to sort of soften that transition. We also looked at locating the larger building type, the townhomes, again, towards the center of the residential development in a way to sort of, again, transition from the outside to the inside and reduce the size and scale of the overall development. Okay, so here is an aerial rendering, and to help orient you, you have Maple Road here in the foreground, Rocky Hill kind of over here in the upper left. As I mentioned, access to the public amenity, roughly the 23-acre portion of the 45 would be off of Maple, and then the residents' main access would be off of Rocky Hill. You can see here in the rendering how we're using space, distance, and landscaping to buffer the residential program from the surrounding neighbors. You can see here in the foreground of the residential some of the cottage product, and then towards the back or the center west side of the site, so the larger townhome buildings. Our initial thought is that we would take some inspiration from East Coast urban planning. It's sort of a rectilinear design with an open green space at the middle here that the residents of this neighborhood would be able to access and use for all kinds of things. Flip the slide here. So
how many total people could live there?
We have 224 units. In terms of how many total people could live there, that's a hard one to answer. But what I can tell you is there are 224 units, and without doing the math in my head, we could break it down. We included in the presentation the percentages of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. But, and I don't know who exactly answered that question, but we certainly could provide a little bit more information tomorrow if that would help.
No, I shouldn't have said anything.
Okay. So yeah, here what we're trying to do is highlight some of our initial thoughts in terms of the public amenity here. So just brainstorming with the team at Trinitas, we thought maybe some pickleball courts, a gazebo, a park for children, and then almost most importantly, or like my favorite amenity, is this walking trail that would meander its way through the forested area that's just east of Route 116. Okay, so here's a conceptual rendering of our cottage. I think we included these just to give you a sense of scale and materiality. Our plan is to engage preferably a local architect to develop the design, to incorporate more local and regional vernacular in detail. So, this will evolve with of course, the town and the community's input. And, think as the design evolves, it will take on certainly more of a Hadley flavor. And then again, this represents the townhome that we envision, again, just to give you a sense of scale and materiality. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Tom, who's going to run us through some of the specifics in terms of the affordable housing component of the project.
Sure. Thanks, Todd. I mean, so pretty simply, guys, I think you know the current state of things in Hadley as far as your percentage above the current safe harbor of 10%. I know we've had conversations about the potential for the increase of that safe harbor to some other number, 15% potentially. And so really what this slide does is shows and assumes, frankly, that the Econo Lodge conversion ultimately is successful and all of those units do count, which would increase the Hadley percentage to 14.2%. This is assuming that none of the units fall off that currently exist. So I think it's Vespa may have some that fall off at some point, but this is assuming that everything that is on the roll stays on the roll. So with Trinitas, you would have, because they would have at least 25% of those year-round housing units as affordable, then all 100% of them, so 224 units would count. And so with the Econo Lodge and with the Trinitas project, you'd be at 21.9%, and then obviously, well, at least I would assume well beyond any potential increase that the state may look to impose. So I think it's just something to consider as you're considering this project.
Thank you, Tom. Almost done, guys. So I know that from our initial conversation, utilities has been a concern, and we have engaged Kimley Horn, who is a reputable civil engineer who's done a lot of work in Hadley and the surrounding area, to do an initial feasibility study just to confirm that utilities are available for a project of this size. And you can see kind of our estimates, our high level bullet point notes here. I'll just run through these very quickly. From a water standpoint, what we've been told is that there is sufficient capacity in both Rocky Hill and Maple Street. Gas, we're going to be a fully electric site and project, so we will not need a gas service. In terms of telecommunications, we've got several service providers that are in the immediate area, so we don't see that as a concern. And then also with electricity, we know that there's electrical lines available, again, in both Rocky Hill and North Maple Street. So according to our consultant and expert, electricity shouldn't be a problem. We know, as I mentioned before, that sanitary is an issue and a concern in Hadley. And our initial proposal would be to connect this project to the Amherst sewer system. What we've been told is that the Amherst system has additional capacity in their system and has always been there in order to accommodate future growth in Hadley. So our initial plan is to connect to that system. And again, I will mention that the sewer issue, sanitary issues in the town of Hadley have come up many times, and we're more than willing to work with the township to try and address those issues in any way we can. And I think with that, I'm going to flip here. Oh, sorry. We'd just like to thank the planning board for the time, allowing us to present, and we are open to any questions or comments you have at this point.
Okay, I will start off with a few, not questions, just statements. You already answered where the sewer would go. That's good, because I doubt Hadley's sewer system could handle a development of this size without extreme duress. 224 units is probably more than the town may be able to handle regarding some ancillary things. in perpetuity affordable is one thing that would absolutely be demanded and nothing else would be acceptable to the town as far as I can tell. You're talking 224 units at a minimum. You're talking probably 500 to 1,000 vehicle trips a day, ballparking. Rocky Hill Road and North Maple Street are by no means super highways, but are seeing huge amounts of traffic because of the UMass traffic during the school season. Right now, it's kind of light, but during the school season, they're very heavily traveled highways. And adding that kind of vehicle trips to them may be stretching their capacity. You go to some, I see you have some 3-story buildings. They probably exceed the building height requirements of the town. I can see one of our comments, UMass is grossly inadequate for student capacity. The recent graduation, the chancellor made a comment that they don't have enough capacity and the students are looking, must be housed in surrounding communities, and they were wondering how they could increase capacity in surrounding communities. UMass is very much negligent in supplying student dormitories for their own students, and they unload the requirements onto the surrounding communities. I can see a lot of these rentals becoming what we call student stuffers. And where you may have 4 bedrooms, if that becomes a student stuffer, that's probably 8 to 10 students living in that house. So those are mostly facts and comments and not an opinion, except for the student stuffers.
Thanks, Jim.
I'll throw in some facts as well. It's a remote location. I did Google Earth. It's 0.8 of a mile from the property line, not from, it's probably a full mile from the center of the complex to the nearest transit on Route 9. North Maple Street does not have sidewalks or bike lanes. Building on what Jim said, it's likely that a lot of your target audience is going to be UMass students or people affiliated with UMass. Rocky Hill Road is narrow. I've driven it several times recently. There are no sidewalks on Rocky Hill Road between North Maple Street and University Drive. Not really any place to put sidewalks. No bike lanes. So you're committing to make this a car-only destination. I also have been, I tried to look up, and Jim or Joe, you may have a copy of it. Some time ago, we had a proposal for a development called Young Meadow Farm, and they needed to connect to the sewer system in order to make it work because they could not perk. We had an opinion from our town council at the time that the town could not grant a private developer an easement in a public way to run a sewer line without a town meeting vote.
And just for information, that was a 2/3 town meeting vote.
2/3 town meeting vote. And based on the research we have been doing on 40R development districts, bear in mind that the responsible state agency has to approve our application to submit a 40R proposal. And one thing they look at is the need, but also the proximity to transit, shopping. The feedback we got for proposals on Route 9 would be that that's what Boston likes. We have not floated anything like this past them, but there's threshold question about whether we could even get clearance to bring this to town meeting. So I'll end there.
Thanks, Bill.
Any other board members have any comments?
Are there any wetlands on the east edge of that in the preserve nature walk going towards 116?
There are, yeah, for the property that's adjacent to 116, the 14-acre parcel, which is owned by a separate owner. We expanded the site. There are wetlands, and so we're using the nature preserve and walking trail to kind of maneuver around the wetlands, and as more of a an aesthetic feature to the overall development. But it also serves as a buffer to 116 because we don't plan on building on that 14 acres parcel, just using it for the nature preserve.
The other thing I was going to ask, and maybe the other members know because I'm the newest member on the board, there was the library system that did a project not too far from here? Was there some restricted, animal
that was on Mark, that was on the other side
of
Rocky
North
Hill.
Maple, right? And that was
Right,
like
North Maple.
what was that? The spotted toad or something? Wasn't there something over there? Or am I?
Yeah, there's priority, Mark. There's priority habitat over there across
Yeah,
North
okay.
Maple. I don't
Okay.
think that there's any
Okay.
priority habitat on this site.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the plan that we're proposing at this point really doesn't touch that 14-acre parcel that Adam mentioned. So other than just, a gravel path for people to walk through, that will avoid all of the wetland areas.
Now, has the wetland area been flagged?
No delineation, Mark, Joe.
You're guessing. My guess is there's a lot more wetlands than you're guessing. So, but nevertheless, I'll keep quiet.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just Jim, for the audience probably that's not aware of some of the intricacy of zoning in Hadley, this land is not zoned for apartments, and Hadley does so. It would require a zoning change for them to build this parcel. And that would require a 2/3 vote. Under 40R, the state is trying to ease the restrictions for compatibility of affordable housing to a simple majority. So just to make people aware that this is why they're proposing a 40R.
This would probably increase Hadley's population overnight 10 to 15%, if not more.
It wouldn't be overnight, but if this thing was built out, it would probably be about a 20 to 25% increase.
Where are our school systems in terms of, are they underpopulated or?
You'd have to find that question from the school department.
Okay.
Mark, they're underpopulated compared to when Bill and Jim were in the class, was close to 100. But as Jim said, those were ancient times.
Wasn't as much to learn 50 years ago.
Well, what you're saying is this probably won't work, but the point is I find it a very attractive type development. And it's unfortunate this area might not be the place for it. But as you said, this is not Hadley of 50 years ago and 60 years ago, Ma's Rendezvous. Everything's changed. And we have to find a ways to increase affordable housing. The state does. And this is a way to go about it. How's that for being open-minded, Tom?
I love that, Mike. I told you.
Exactly as Tom wrote it, Mike. You rehearsed it very well.
Tear it up, tear it up.
I forgot to put a comma in, but it was damn close.
You know, I've been furiously taking notes here, and if you don't mind, can we respond to a few of the questions and comments?
Sure.
Sure.
Well, I mean, you can reply to some of them, but the general comments to be considered when you come to the town, because I mean,
Exactly.
the town is the one that's going to make the decision, not the planning board. But go ahead.
Understood. I think we're just having a conversation here because I think traffic was brought up, and you know, if you guys are willing to work with us, we certainly would engage a traffic consultant and study the traffic and see exactly, you know, what the impact of a development like this would be on the existing roadway system. I will mention that we, in a project like this, we do include bus shuttle service, and residents use that a ton. So that cuts down dramatically on you'd be surprised at how much that cuts down on vehicle trips. We run that to the grocery store. We run that on a Friday and Saturday night downtown so people can go out and go to dinner. And you know, there's just stops and stops and stops that we add depending on request and demand. So that does, and you know, that gets factored into the traffic report. And again, you'd be very surprised at how it impacts a development like this, impact on the overall roadway system. So there's that. And you know, in terms of the sewer system, I was trying to follow, I think it was Bill making those comments. And you know, I'm not a civil engineer, and I certainly don't know the intricacies of how the easements work in Hadley, but that's certainly something that we could explore a little further to see if that would be feasible. So yeah, maybe that's my comment at this point. Thanks.
Have you given any thought to just having an over 55 friendly 40B?
You said, have we given it any thought, just to confirm?
Friendly 40B for 55 and over?
Yes. I mean, so our focus is, you know, market rate apartments, and it's hard to have a smaller demographic population. And so for financeability reasons, you know, it's important for us to be all inclusive, you know, for all of the above. So it helps with lease up and, you know, operating the buildings. So we have not done one, but this would be for, you know, the entire community.
I have a question, if I could, Jim, to the board that I'm sure there's someone that knows. Is there storm drainage anywhere near there, or would they have to do all their storm drainage on site?
They would not be allowed to tie into any town storm drains.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
our initial
all drainage would need to be addressed by them on site.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, our initial thought, again, working with Kimley Horn, was to do a dry detention pond. There wouldn't be a lake; it would be dry, and we would obviously only fill up if there was a major storm.
And I guess just off the outside the box question, do you ever do solar on any of your projects?
We have, and we can, yeah, we have, and not every project, but we can absolutely explore that and, you know, work with you on that front 100%.
If you have excess storage, Tom's on the line.
Any other comments from anybody?
Jim, I guess I have a question just for next steps. So we've got some feedback. We've heard the concerns. If this is going to be a 40R, right, who do we work with? Because this is, I mean, the 40R process is new, so ultimately it has to go to the state, but do we work through the board to get there? Are you guys, can you say no right away? I mean, what does this look like going forward?
Don't they work with the ZBA? Excuse me, Jim.
No. From what I understand about 40R, it's a planning board, mostly a planning board responsibility initially. Is that right, Bill?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, and, you know, it would be your consultants, we would have consultants, it would be, and for some, I would assume for something like this, the process to get to the state um, would probably be cost some significant money.
And time.
Yeah.
Years.
We will be talking about 40R again at our next meeting on September 5 with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
We're so new into the 40R process that we're going to be straight out honest with you. We don't know much about it.
Yeah, and it seems like, based on my knowledge of it, you're the first stop, right? Planning board's the first stop, and then, you know, it looks like there's select board support, and then it goes to DHCD or whatever they're called now, EEOA, whatever, and then I think it goes to town meeting. So I think, you know, planning board is first. So it's just, you know, do we come back September 5th? Do we sharpen our pencils and have the conversation on September 5th? You know, sometimes it sounds like we're living in a middle world right now between a yes, this is something we can support, and no, absolutely not. And I don't know if I'm just...
I'll be honest, we don't know enough about the 40R process, at least I'll speak for myself, to say, I like this or I don't like this.
Okay.
It's so new to us. I mean, it was something that we just heard about earlier this year. And even the state, when we talked to a gentleman from the state, he said it's up to an 18-month process to go through the state. So it's not by any means, even if we loved it, a slam dunk. This we don't know.
Okay.
We're learning. And boy, do we have a lot to learn.
That's why we've engaged Pioneer Valley.
I will tell you that this is not our priority. What we are looking at for priority sites are adaptive redevelopment of existing properties along Route 9, which seems to be the area that 40R is targeted towards. This seems like it's a long shot at best.
Yeah, I think, Bill, that, you know, the one thing that our program offers that you probably aren't going to get on Route 9, though, is you know, 22 acres of community give back, the nature preserve, all of that stuff, right? I mean, that must have some value.
Well, we're losing 22 acres of farmland.
Exactly.
So that's the downside. We would have to live with a conventional subdivision in there. And if that's the way if that's the highest and best use of the property, so be it. You know, we'll get, they have the opportunity to put a couple of streets in because they can loop it. So there might be a dozen houses in there, maybe more. Have to see what the layout looks like. But
one of the things that I forgot to mention, and Mr. Dwyer just hit on it, is that we're losing 45 or close to 45 acres of prime farmland. And Hadley is a farming community, if not the largest, one of the largest in the state. We have lots of APR land. Hadley is super dedicated to preserving its farmland, and that comes at a cost.
Which just triggers back to the adaptive reuse focus that we like.
I will say, being on the acquisition side, I've scoured and probably called every single person on Route 9, and no one's interested in selling anytime soon. So this is, in our opinion, you know, a great site. It is close to Route 9. It offers the community amenities. You know, we're trying to be set back and really beautifully landscaped, so it's hidden and, you know, not really seen from the frontage there, and have two different access points, and you know, certainly try to be mindful of the location. But I think that Todd hit on, it's great that we have the amount of acreage to include for all the community aspects, and We're certainly trying to preserve as many trees as possible, keeping the, the greenery there, and, using that to the development's advantage and aesthetic.
Yeah, so I guess the trade-off is farmland for, open space and forest into the future.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let us, we'll huddle together. I'll be in touch with you all, let you know kind of what our next steps
Okay.
are going to be.
Thank
First
you
and
all.
third Tuesday every month, we're here.
Appreciate it, everyone. Nice meeting
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Adam.
you so much.
Very much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you, Ted.
Bye.
See you.
Oh, we should do a motion to continue
Oh, yes.
the
The Chase Bank was not ready
Chase
yet.
Bank.
Yeah.
They do not have a clean peer review letter yet.
Okay.
So that's 375 Russell. So I'll move to continue to September
19.
18, is it?
19th, right?
September 19th
I would second that.
at the request of
Chase Bank.
at the request of the applicant.
Yeah, okay. You have a motion? Did you second it, Mark?
Yes, I did.
Motion a second? Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Right.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Lynn, I see you. Are you here for just watching this, or do you have some questions? You're muted.
Thank you
Very
for the opportunity. Did you want any comments or you just want questions?
We weren't sure if you're just watching for us for some reason, or if you have questions about about something.
It's always wonderful to watch you guys in doing your job. So that's great. But we were a little bit concerned about the project, mostly because I'm thinking as a rental property manager for years in this area, I feel that project would just be inviting more students. I don't see empty nesters wanting to move next door to students. I just don't see it. So I think it's going to be mostly students, and that's okay if you're prepared for that. But that, in my opinion, is how that would largely unfold. And especially if the
Yeah, could I just step in for a minute? I think since they've left already, perhaps we
Okay,
should have
fine.
asked for comments while they were here.
That's fine.
It's not a public hearing, but I think maybe we should just, I guess the answer is that they're here for Trinitas. They were here for Trinitas.
That's fine. I get it.
Thank you. I was working on the solar bylaw. I mean, the battery storage, energy storage bylaw, and most of it comes out pretty okay, except that these battery units can't be sitting on the ground. They're basically going to be sitting on a concrete pad for a variety of reasons. And that kind of runs against what we were saying. Now, one of the things that can be done is these pads, if you would, can be ground mounted pads. They don't have to go deep into the ground. They don't need a foundation under them. They can basically be floating pads, and the power could still come underneath them. That is all okay from an engineering point of view. However, these pads are going to be, let's say you got a 6 kW system. They're going to be pretty sizable concrete pads, probably someplace in the order of, if it's one big pad, it's going to be a massive pad. You could put probably individual pads under the trailer, but there's still going to be someplace around. Each pad will be roughly, I'm going to guess. Oh, wait, see, I got it right here. Wait a minute. Each pad will probably be someplace around 14 foot wide by maybe 60 to 70 feet long for each set of battery storage options. That'll each pad in that case would contain 4 storage units, and they would be separated by a space so that in case there's a fire, they don't burn up more than a couple of units. But that's still an awful lot of concrete, and it could be designed that when the life of this unit is up, because they're not disturbing the dirt too much underneath it, they could just take this pad away and be done with it. But I wasn't sure what the board's opinion is on this kind of a thing.
We could bond it very similar to the bonding we have if a solar field went belly up.
Right, right.
Well, how much heat?
I mean, if the board is okay with covering that kind of a removal with bonding, then that's okay.
That would almost keep it out of the residential agricultural district.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking we would allow battery storage wherever we allow solar ground mounted storage, large ground mounted storage.
Which
How
is
does the board think on that?
Yeah, but what is that limited to? That's allowed in a residential agricultural area.
It's allowed in ag residential and business zone. It's not no, not the business.
Not the
Ag
business.
residential and industrial. Not allowed in the business zone.
So you could put batteries off of Huntington Road.
Yes. That would be permitted.
Well, how about over the aquifer protection area?
That would be permitted.
Permitted?
Might be permitted. It's still a special permit.
Yeah, still a special permit because they're going to go to the planning board.
You know, something like putting it next to the wellhead might be one of those situations where it is not an abuse of discretion to say no.
Right.
Putting it in an exploited gravel pit doesn't seem like it shocks the conscience. It's sort of a quirk that that gravel pit was not zoned industrial or at least business. I think it was in operation at the time that everything was laid out. I guess they just thought they could go on as pre-existing non-conforming. But yeah, I don't have any problem with allowing batteries where we allow, well, we're already allowing batteries where we allow solar.
Right.
As an applicant comes in and says, I want to add batteries to my array, they're there.
But the point is, this is not solar storage. It's pulling electricity off of the grid.
That's fine.
Correct.
We're going to.
That is correct.
But we're going to.
Exactly what it does.
You know, people have been telling us this is part of the solar electricity generation. Well, that's baloney.
Well, it's not as we currently define it,
Right.
but we can change the definition.
Okay.
That way, the world.
If you have a large storage facility and you put batteries up, yes, you're storing the solar more than likely that you generate in your batteries. But if it is strictly a battery storage, it is absolutely not solar. You're pulling power off of the grid, excess power off of the grid, and you're releasing it when it is available, when it is needed. Yeah, it's not solar by any stretch, shape, or form if it's just a standalone system. You're right.
Well, I mean, there could be some percentage of the grid that comes from solar, but right, it's certainly seems misleading to call it solar if you're not generating.
Yeah, I mean, Because you can't say, well, my solar's going to the batteries. Well, if you're putting it into the grid,
It's
it's
not.
in the grid. And
In
the
the
idea-
last meeting we had with Ken, he used the word novel for this technology. And that kind of perked my ears up, novel, which means it's not really been tested. It's novel.
it
So
is
just,
not,
throw that out.
it is, you're right. It is not old technology. I mean,
It's
battery
novel, it's
storage,
novel, which means it's still being developed.
battery storage has not been around for eons. It has
No.
probably been around for,
Like
I'm
10
gonna,
years?
I'm gonna guess somewhere around 50 to 70 years.
Okay.
Battery storage is not brand new, but has been around for a while. It's been used up different places in the world. What's new about the battery storage is lithium ion. That is the big receiver right now, and lithium ion is not an old technology. That is relatively new. And according to the fire department, if a lithium ion battery caught on fire, and I think even most of the energy storage companies, facilities would tell you the same thing, they don't try to put it out. They let it, they contain it so that it doesn't spread, and they let it burn itself out, because that's the only reasonable way to address a lithium ion fire, because it is so volatile, if you would. Once
Do they contain the gases that are spewing from the lithium ion fire?
It's inside of a storage container, so I would guess not. I don't know what kind of fumes are given off. So
It's hard to understand how the powers that be have brought us to the point where we can't generate enough electricity as in the old days, so that we don't have to install hazardous materials to provide electricity in the nighttime. I just don't understand how it's come to this, but that's my opinion.
Okay. Okay, so I will refine the bylaw for what our comments have been tonight, and hopefully get it out to you before the next meeting. Okay. Anything else?
Jim, I mean, relative to our meeting, last meeting, Joe Zagranik tried to bring up the lawsuit that's pending, and you said we can't discuss a pending lawsuit. Is that an opinion of our town council or a judge's opinion? I mean, I'm just thinking about the First Amendment. Why can't we talk about it?
I'll let Mr. Dwyer address that.
I would say the expression should be, we shouldn't talk about it, because we are representatives of the town. And anything we say as representatives of the town, whether we actually have any business saying it or not, can be construed against the town.
But I'm also, I'm an elected official of the town, not necessarily a representative. Big difference.
Yes, you are a representative of the town. You
Okay.
are an ambassador of the town. You
Okay.
are, anything we say, and maybe I'll have I'd be happy to have a side conversation with you another day, perhaps, because I have a very specific instance to relate of where something that was said in a meeting made its way into other contexts, and is being, I'll talk to you about it later. You can
Before
call me.
my time?
You
Before
can
my
call me
time?
while you're waiting for Joe to pick you up.
Before my time,
Before your time?
No,
this incident?
No,
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 Okay.
not at all.
no, it's, never mind.
Yeah.
Mr. Dwyer will explain it to you.
Well, and it sounds like Jim has another one in mind, because I haven't even talked to him about this one.
Okay.
We're just a hot mess here.
So that's why we keep our mouths shut about
Got it.
things that we are not directly involved in. And if we do want to discuss things that we are directly involved in, we have the option of going into executive session. So our First Amendment rights are not stifled. but we can't go into executive session to discuss another board's litigation.
Well, I didn't even know they were in litigation until Josie brought it up.
Yeah. Okay.
On a need-to-know basis. So I probably should just touch base with Carolyn about how many zoning articles we want for town meeting.
Yeah, we've got the energy.
Jim's internet just
Okay, Jim,
froze.
you froze, Jim.
One section.
Jim, you froze.
Your audio started coming back, but your
The small scale solar.
we missed the first part of what you said.
Oh, we were gonna change small scale solar, the section of the bylaw, the review for, I think it's like 30 or 60 days right now to 21 days.
Yep.
Like small
And-
scale is under a certain kilowatt.
Under an acre or something.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
area, not
It's the one that's up for administrative review. And battery storage, hold a place for it at least. We still have some work to
Right.
do on it.
we're all done with food trucks.
For the moment. I think it remains to be seen how that's going to play out. And the select board, I think, will adopt its regulations, and if there's a problem going forward, we'll address it going forward.
And we haven't made any new progress with the payment in lieu, right?
No,
No.
we haven't. That remains.
Well,
Good
Mark,
topic.
that's right. I brought up an alternative situation using Hadley, kind of the cost of a building lot instead of
I saw that.
have now was, let's see, calculated from the regional construction and sales reports, which we never get around to. So we'll talk about that sometimes.
I did see that Amherst committed a chunk of their affordable housing trust to a project
Yep.
up in, I think, the north end of town.
Yeah, the old trailer trucking company.
Yeah, Watuskos.
They did both affordable housing trust fund money and CPA money.
Right.
That, I think, is going to go forward as a friendly 40B.
Mhm.
So be interesting. See how that plays out.
I did not ask, but I inferred that the town of Amherst was amenable, had conversations with Trinitas about accepting their waste, or that was just speculative.
That is ongoing with the select board and the town of Amherst.
It's a good question, Mark. I don't have an answer. That's probably something to ask them as a follow-up question, whether they just assume availability. Certainly, as I pointed out, they really need to investigate whether they can even get there before they.
They would need a pumped force main.
But Mark, the important point is that the selectmen and or the planning board cannot make that unilateral decision. Any
No.
extension of the sewer line must go before a town meeting.
Yeah, yeah. and Amherst's, Hadley's invested in it's a Amherst Hadley joint venture on that waste treatment
No,
facility.
the Amherst
I don't know
sewer
the
plant-
history of it.
Just some facts.
Yeah.
The Amherst sewer plant is under capacity. It was built as a regional sewer plant, whatever that means. And the town of Amherst and the town of Hadley are investigating possibly taking some of Hadley sewer.
Okay.
And those discussions are still ongoing.
High level. Okay.
And Mark, from a historical perspective, Amherst had a sewer moratorium because a guy named Paparazzo was going to put up, several hundred houses at one time. And Amherst did not have the sewer capacity. And after much deliberation, deciding where they were going to put it, North Amherst, South Amherst, in the center of town, they decided they would put their new sewer plant in Hadley. Hence the regional came about. So the Amherst sewer plant is located in Hadley.
And probably by calling it regional, they got more money from the state.
That's a good point.
Without a doubt.
When was that built? In the 70s or?
Well, the original one was built a long time ago, but it was expanded. I don't remember when it was expanded. Probably.
Oh, the pipe goes under our old farmland in North Hadley and being into the river. That's where the effluent goes.
It used to,
And that was probably when I was 10 years old, because I remember it was a good place to actually fish in the river.
Well, Michael, it used to overflow and go into the North Hadley Pond. And
Right.
now it overflows and goes into the Connecticut River.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
Thank you for the history.
Move we adjourn.
It ends up the same place, Long Island Sound.
any other comments? Any other business? Hearing none? Mr. Zagradi made a
Motion to
motion
adjourn.
Made a second?
No bills to pay? Okay.
Thanks, gentlemen. Nice
All
to
in
have you
favor?
back, Mark. Congratulations.
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is history. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Tom, for coming. Good night.